have. All right, there we go. So look, so great. So I was going to say last week was a really good discussion that we talked through on chapter 1. Let me go back through chapter 1 a little bit.
We're in chapter 2.
No, we're in chapter 2 now.
Oh, chapter 2. You're right.
Yeah, chapter 1 was talking about the decision. It was just talking about some highlights. I know Jeff and Tiff had a lot of good commentary in reference to the second law of wealth, talking about let me pull this up, just different things in reference to different nuggets that we brought up. It says, don't sit down and wait for opportunities to come, get up and make them happen. So that was one of the things that we talked about last week that was really powerful. Also, the future never takes care of itself. It is taken care of, shaped, molded, and colored by the present. So I thought that was really, really good to kind of talk through and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else on here that we talked about. Talked about Barry Gordy, talked about his dream and how he built from $700 Motown back in the 1960s and how that was a powerhouse for the Black community, and just talked about how it was he just had a powerful resource there, just being driven and motivated. Talked about Tyler Perry, how he was homeless at one time. Of course, most of us know his history about being abused and different things like that, and how he went on for the Madea dynasty, and how he actually almost decided to give up, but at some point, the will and drive to succeed, he decided to do one more play. And I think he advertised a little bit differently in this particular time. And when he went out to look over the balcony, I guess, of the hotel or wherever they were, he saw that it was so many people lined up to come to the play. He was just ecstatic of how the response was totally different. So, just keeping your dreams alive and different things like that. So that's a couple of things that we discussed last week I thought was really, really, really good for us. It really was really key about it. He talked about just your IQs. He talked about millionaires. What is he saying? Let me pull this up, trying to see. He just talked about the education levels of millionaires. He just also talked about, working hard, being dedicated. Talked about TD Jakes a little bit, Chris Gardner, different people that we probably have heard of, and just talked about that you have to win the war on poverty, that wealth begins in the mind, and for those who are hostile to it will never possess it. So it was a lot of good stuff that we talked about last week.
He talked about your net worth will equal your self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, he talked about what? But he also talked about, excuse me, he talked about Usher and how he went through those issues. It seems like, throughout this whole book, I've seen the whole deal has just been talking about that mindset, and these people are just determined to succeed, wealth and legacy for their family.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a really good topic last week, just kind of talking through different things. Abundance is your destiny, rid yourself of poverty, the poverty mentality. Money goes wherever it is welcome. Decide that you will be a good steward of the money you possess. As a result, more money will be added unto you. That was powerful. When I read that, I was like, wow. It's like you have to be a good steward of your money in order to be able to get more money. Your thoughts on the LT? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought that was one of the things that I marked down. Well, actually, I guess two of the things. The first one was what Tom was saying. Your bank account and what you do is kind of reflected. That was powerful to me. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's true. I think if you if you look at your bank account and it's not where you want it to be, mm-hmm. then you need to take a look at yourself and see what you're doing.
Right.
And are you valuing yourself, your family?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Because if you're spending all your money every day, are you really valuing your family?
Right. It's a good point.
So yeah, that was really powerful to me. So I was really engaged in chapter 1.
Yeah.
Really. There was a lot of good points that came out of that for me.
Yeah, it had a lot of good topics in there. I mean, it kind of just he brought a lot of scenarios, brought a lot of people in that were relatable. I think especially like Tom was saying with Usher, is that how his accountants thought he was going to blow through all that money that he had, and finally someone kind of talked to him a little bit about it, and he was more conscious of kind of his spending, and just someone talking to you, because what I guess what we fail to realize too is going into chapter 2 now, the haves and the have-nots, the difference that makes the difference. It says, open the door and I'll get it it's open the door and I'll get it myself, James Brown. So kind of in this particular one, it talks about kind of like the mentality, and it talks a little bit there, but it talked about how you have to really think a little bit differently in reference to how you were raised. I think that's kind of where I'm going with this, that a lot of times in one, and I'm gonna find that quote in a minute, but it was just talking about how the poor people are looking to look rich, whereas middle class people are
they want to be
they look for degrees,
right,
and look for accolades, whereas the rich look for oh goodness, what did they say? Look for I guess controlling their money or their wealth or something like that. Look on their bank account. That's what they said. Right. Look on emphasis on their bank account, just like LT said. It's just kind of like and I think when you've been raised a certain way, it's hard to break those mentalities, because that is so true. It's like the middle class, most of us were probably raised in the middle class section, probably weren't, probably poor. I'm pretty sure it's probably some aspects of some of us that probably were poor, but I think most of us were raised in a middle class setting. And for a lot of us, we were taught to think through going to college, obtaining degrees, getting a good job. But as we're starting to realize, as we're getting older, it's the mindset of making sure that you have a sustainable bank account that keeps you to be able to sleep better at night.
Right. I know I sleep good when I get money in the bank. I don't know about nobody else.
Well, I'm telling you, I do too.
I feel good when I can look at that number. There's a number. There's a positive number in that number,
right?
not a negative number.
Right.
Or real low number.
Huge, but it's a positive number.
Right. Hello, somebody.
Wonderful thing.
Right. It makes you feel better. And I that's kind of, I'm gonna find that quote in a minute, but just talking about in chapter 2, just talking about the different scenarios in reference to the American Express CEO Ken Chenault, talking about him.
Well, what he was talking about in that, Ms. Sharon, was you kind of touched on two different things. One thing you were saying was that about the poor, the difference between the poor and the rich. The poor overall, if you separate this into two categories, poor and the rich, the poor want to act rich. And that's why they never get anywhere. But the rich act poor. That's why if you see Bill Gates or some of those guys walking out on the street, you would never guess they were millionaires or billionaires, because they're not driving Bentleys. They don't have on one stitch of some designer clothing or shoes. You would never know them, because they're acting poor. But the second thing I believe that you were touching on, you obviously read in chapter 2, they talked about the poor, the middle class, and the rich. The poor, I forget what page it's on, but they talked about how the poor are in survival mode. Mm-hmm. They just want to get to the next day.
Yep, they just want to exist.
Just when they just exist. They're not moving forward. They're not moving backwards. They're just in one place. And then talked about how the middle class seeks comfort, Oh, okay. Well, I work 3 hours overtime this week, so I'll get an additional $100. So I'm good. They just want to be comfortable. But the rich, their idea of life is they seek freedom and control, which means that they want to be able to go to work if they want to.
Right.
Or they'll live on a residual income, as it were. The bus is moving whether you own it or not. The checks keep coming whether you pick up the phone, make a phone call or not, whether you get in your car and drive to the job or not. That's the control part of it. And the freedom part of it is, I'm going to the beach today. I'm not going to the job. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to just take the dog to school, and then I'm going to go to the beach and come back and pick her up later. So I think that's where you were going with that, and of course along with the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, because like on page 92, it talks about 9 drivers of wealth. I think that's kind of where this is stemming from. I'm gonna come back to Mr. Graves' story, but with Black Enterprise, but it was talking about 9 drivers of wealth, and it breaks this down over the next couple of pages. And it, like you guys said, it was saying that life. The variable first was life, and it talks about the have-not survival, and then the haves achievement. And that is really quite interesting because you're right. I think about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I talk about that all the time, that how people, before they really get to any other type, they got to have survival. They got to have the basics, food, shelter, water, have those things, and then that's when they go to the next thing up, talking about any type of amenities, and then you go up to types of maybe extra spend as far as like achievements or any type of level of degrees or different things like that. Whereas if you are thinking on a higher level, that okay, I want to make sure that I'm achieving some things. I want to make sure that I'm at a certain place where you're a advocate learner, then you're going to strive for achievement and not just survival. And that's powerful. I mean, I hate to say that word over again, but that's powerful because I think a lot of times if we're not teaching our children anything, we got to teach them to achieve higher, to stretch themselves, to push themselves outside their comfort zone. Because what happens is that at some points, are we sending the wrong message with just telling them just to survive, just get you a 9 to 5, like they were talking about?
I think we are. I think that's the message, but I mean, like we say, that's the message that we were taught, but that's where we have to challenge ourselves to say, you know what, that's not necessarily what we want to project to the next generation. I particularly want to do better with actually like challenging like my nieces and nephews to want more than just to go to work for 60 hours a week for somebody else.
60 hours a week.
Yeah. Hey.
Is that a personal testimony?
That's a personal testimony. So I'm like,
right.
It didn't work for me. So listen to me when I'm telling you. Okay?
I feel you.
Do something different.
Right.
Do something different. Don't do what I did. But I think that's the message that we gotta put out there. And then I think we have to put the message out there that, you don't have to have the brand, a brand new pair of sneakers. You got $100 in your account and you're gonna spend 95 on sneakers. I mean, that's what we got to work on I think as a people. That's one of my things. I think just looking at us now in a different light, like our culture.
Yeah, you're right. It's a culture thing, and I tell Pete all the time. Actually, when Pete talking about money and stuff, I was like, man, your girl, she's of the whole bunch. I think your girl is about the most real as anybody, because you like. Because I mean, your girl, she don't want no fat ride. Maybe even if you could go out and pay $9,000 for a car, she's like, why are you gonna pay $9,000 for a car? Just let's buy something that's dependable.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So I'm like, I take a lesson from that because I think that you can learn from the people right in your circle. That's why I think we all are perfectly fit for each other, because we can all learn something from each other. And that's one
I
thing
learn from y'all
that
all
I
the
get from
time.
you is I know the word I'm looking for, practicality.
Right, right.
I like a person that I know.
That's exactly right, right. Well, she's an accountant too. That makes a difference too, because she looks at the balance sheets.
The
all
numbers,
the time,
right. She get them numbers. The numbers ain't right, then we can't do it. Okay.
Yeah. That's what I tell people. Numbers don't lie. 2 + 2 will always be 4. I don't care what else you do. So yeah, it's something we all need to. I guess we all need to kind of work on. But now that's what I said. I learned stuff from y'all too. I learned to kind of go out there and do some things that I probably wouldn't do normally. I.e., I'm sitting in Spartanburg.
Girl, you crazy.
Well, that goes to talk about the achievement piece. That's the achievement piece he's talking about. It's looking beyond sometimes the comfort zone.
Yeah.
And even like he said, it was about the process of continually seeking to be better, to challenge myself, to pursue excellence on every level, and to dream big and dream very big. Work hard, and continue to move in the direction of your goals. So it's kind of like I think that's what resonated with me. And I'm gonna find the page that I highlighted, that is that he's saying to think bigger.
Right.
To think bigger. That's the reason why, this particular year, that's why this year, and I think next year is going to be more or so a year of discovery for me, because of course, we're celebrate milestone birthdays and different things like that. But I also think that we have to reevaluate, okay, this is what my goal was 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago. Okay, am I achieving that? So maybe right now I may or may have achieved it. Check. Right. But I need to reassess my goal. Maybe my goal needs to change. It needs to be ever changing. And so kind of like, some of the things I've been saying, and I've been thinking back, the last couple of years, and I was like, okay, that motivational speaker thing kept coming. And finally I read in this book, it was like, what did he say? I don't know what page it was. It said, if you find something that you love, the money will follow. It's on page 99. Do what you love and the money will follow. And that is so real when I start to hear about some of the stories that they talk about throughout this book. And just people, and a lot of these stories we really already know anyway, especially in the Black community. We started to see that people did what they loved, and that money came with it. Now, the growing pain of money and managing money probably came with it too, but they were able to achieve these success, and that's where the survival and the versus achievement, that's where it comes crucial, because it's like they didn't just want to survive; they wanted to make something out of themselves and doing what they loved.
Right.
And the money came, and so it's kind of like I said, just the drivers here just really was so important to me. So it's like he drilled everything down about the drivers of wealth, and he had with the life survival versus achievement, which we've talked about. The driver two he has is family unit, the matriarch and the patriarch, and legacies. And he talked, I guess, most people who he identified with, he said today, most of 75% of Black infants are born out of wedlock. While 60% of, let me make sure I'm reading this right, Black households with children are headed by women. So it just talks about how things have changed since 1975, and how most of the entrepreneurs and different people that they had both a mother and a father in the household. That was very interesting to see that a lot of them still had that family dynamic and unit prevalent in the household, even if their average household income was less than $35,000.
Yeah, because he even talked about, I don't know, I think it was in the Family Driver. It was one of those drivers where when he interviewed all these millionaires, one of the top things that they talked about, that aside from the money part, was the millionaires cherished, put a high value on the family unit, including, they said they include their family I don't see the exact page, but he talked about how they include their family in most of the decisions, because the decisions that they make, just like Tanya was saying, decisions you're making are going to impact either your family today or maybe even down the road. After you are older, or after you've gone on, if you leaving a legacy. So everything that you do now is going to impact your family and how they fare after you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So he was. Yeah. So they put a really high importance on the family unit.
Yeah, but they also talked about how it's important to teach the family, the next generations, like LT was saying, teach them how to think about money differently, because generational wealth can be obtained. However, it can be lost in a generation or two.
Right.
And so they were saying how you have to be able to teach your offspring, prepare them for generational wealth, and making sure that they understand the pitfalls of having money, but also it's a sacrifice to be able to continue to keep that wealth going, because a lot of people have been able to obtain the wealth, but as we know, a lot of people can lose it as well. So those are kind
of like, I think your friend last week, was it Tasha?
Yeah, Natasha.
Her family, some people in her family inherited some money or some land from an uncle or something, and he chose specific people that he thought that could carry on the legacy. And people, but like she said, she made the point was that's gotta be in you. So if they're reading a book like this, then more than likely it's gonna be in them, or they read something self-help that's helping them get their mind around the fact that when you come into some money, a large sum of money or land or whatever it might be, it's your duty, and it's your duty and your job to do what you have to do to maintain that legacy and keep that legacy, and even build on it, and then leave that legacy for your offspring.
Right. I mean, I think it's just parallels, like you said, with the achievement. You got to teach them achievement and not survival. That they have to aspire to do something big, and that's it big, but something more than just to survive in the world, because that in itself limits you. It gives you limitations. It put limitations on you, and God, He wants us to be better. He wants us to be in abundance, and a lot of times, if we don't start to teach our kids that's when we start to see some of the generations on generations of poverty that's been affected in the Black community. And it's kind of hard to see, especially what he's saying in his book is really true, is that why can't more of the black community prosper? It's because I don't know if it's because we our mentality is that we cannot achieve, that we cannot move past poverty. And so in chapter 1 it talks about making that ultimate decision to decide that I'm not going to be poor. I'm going to be of wealth or influence, or of I guess of a better status. And now he's talking about how you can do that with these drivers. So the next driver is talking about education, K-12 through long lifetime of learning. And it was just saying that the state of education, Black millionaires' rate of education beyond their time in the classroom. Let me see, what is this? A classroom counterparts. Highly says the disparity is startling. He said the Carnegie Foundation report states that Black high school dropout rate is in many urban areas exceeds about 50%.
Yep, it's crazy.
Ooh, I saw that. I think my heart dropped because I didn't realize it was that high.
Yep, I didn't realize that it was that high either.
Wow, that's when it says startling, that is, because I wouldn't think that 50% of our youth is dropping out of high school.
Yeah. and even that one that talked about the 44% of Blacks, 17-year-olds are functionally literate, and that's number is so low. That number should be a whole lot
Mm.
higher. Not illiterate, but only
Illiterate, yeah.
Yeah, he said only 44% are literate, which means they understand what they read. But that's a low. That number should be a whole lot higher too. That's why we press Soraya to read so much. And on that note, I've read more in the past 6 years than I've read my entire life.
That's good.
Because I hated reading. So and so that's something that we gotta press, like we talked about going to school and getting an education and just getting a job and not really pressing that legacy piece and leaving an inheritance for your children's children. Along with that and with the education piece is something that we need to press even as African Americans, because a lot of us, we just got a bad bag of goods, man. We've been just sold a bad bag of goods, and that's what we're trying to do here is reach. We got to and essentially unlearn some stuff and relearn, and we have to unlearn and relearn, or unlearn and learn some things, because you can't read if you can't you got to learn it. If you got to relearn, it means you already knew it, but we got to unlearn some things and then learn
learn the right things. Yeah,
right.
But that's what I said. I thought it was interesting during the survey when they found out they read approximately 20 books per year.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
awesome.
I was like, I know, because I kept saying, I was like, man, I am so under that. But
the word is Bill Gates reads. He said he reads 3 books a day.
Wow,
that's a lot of books.
And
dude.
that's the thing. But think about it. He can run everything he's running and read 3 books a day. So it's kind of like,
well, that's where that freedom piece comes in.
Right. But but think about it. I mean, he had to read so many to probably get where he is today too. So it's kind of like when people say, well, you know what, I really don't have time for that. And I'm like,
I'll tell you
sometimes it's like, do you? I mean, let's talk about it. Do you really think you don't have time?
You got to make time.
You
got to make time.
In one of Dr. Kimbrough's interviews, he asked a millionaire, a black millionaire, I think he was like 45, and he asked him, how did you make that kind of money, so early in your life? He said, I outread the next guy. Just outread it. Because the word is that you read, I don't know what the exact number is, but they talk about how so much reading will bring you a certain amount of success. So obviously, if you're not reading, if you're not putting anything in your head, then you can count on really not earn anything. I mean, of course, if you go to school, you're doing a lot of reading, you can probably get a good job. But we're talking about self-improvement. You can always have the big job, and and that's all well and great. But if you go and start reading some stuff, as they say, in so many years, you'll be an expert at whatever you're reading, and you can write your own ticket. And they say you don't have to look for a job, because the industry will seek you out, because you'll be out there as somebody that's knowledgeable in whatever that thing is. And that kind of goes into one of these other drivers. I'll tell you what it's on, which one it is. But go ahead, babe.
No, I was just going to say, if it talks about on that same page 95, if you would commit to being a lifelong student, reading the books, attending the classes, networking with like-minded individuals, then today would mark the first day to be a better financial future. And so, LT and I talk about all the time how, attending these John Maxwell sessions and these different things, how you get empowered, how you get motivated, how you get pushed outside of just your norm to think differently and bigger and stuff. And so it's kind of like this right here, what we're doing right now is what we should be doing as an inner circle of talking through, okay, we need to think different when it comes to our financial future. What are we doing differently today? What are we thinking differently than we've done before? Because, we're not bad off or anything like that, but he's saying reading the books, attending the classes, networking. So those are things that we need to start incorporating in some of the things that we're doing on an everyday basis, or every,
Right.
the activities that we're doing. We
Right.
need to incorporate some of these things so we can think bigger. We can strive to be better. So we can start looking at like I think me and you, Tom, were talking the other day about how we were seeing people, this one couple bought a hotel in the Bahamas, an old abandoned hotel or something. And I mean, that was a big feat. But what I'm saying is that, but those are things that we got to start thinking like. It's like, okay, instead of us doing this, we need to be buying these things. Not just going to see it. We need to buy this so we can make somebody else come to our stuff, rent it. and then that's our vacation home away from home.
Right.
And we're not and we're not really spending money because it's ours. We own it. So it's kind of like, now I'm thinking differently, even though I've kind of thought that way before, but now I'm thinking different. I don't know if it's older age or, like I said, this book is really, really, really challenging your thought process and everything. But it talks about L.A. Reid. It talks about how L.A. Reid was, of course, in the Deal, the R&B group, the Deal with Babyface. Right. Of course, he's half of LaFace Records, and now I think by the time this book came out, he was the CEO of Epic Records. And it talked about how he didn't go to college, but he went to Harvard Business School and took some courses. And because he identified that he had to learn more about the business. Right. And I think that's just challenging his own self to think differently. And sometimes, even on my job, and Miss Cynthia, she was on here, she would say the same thing, is that sometimes people will get in certain positions, or they'll get in certain places in their life, and I've achieved, I'm here, but they never want to grow. And then you wonder where that person could be if they took some more time out to try to push themselves out of that comfort zone. So I just thought that was really awesome to see L.A. Reid say, not only am I a record executive, but I got to push myself to know more about business. And so I'm going to take up, not only am I going to do my workload at work, but it was saying how he had to devote 60 to 70 more hours a week to his study.
Yeah.
And he say him and Dr. Dre, they both did that.
Yeah, I think I heard that somewhere.
They both took out time and flew to, I guess, LA, wherever that school is, and they
Harvard, probably New York or somewhere.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
6 weeks out of their busy schedule, and then he said he asked L.A. Reid, "Man, why'd you do that?" He said, "Man, the music business is a business."
Right.
The key word is business.
Right. It's a business. So I need to up my business acumen. So I can do business.
Yeah. The next driver talking about, I guess what we kind of touched on earlier, was in reference to money. It says act rich, act poor. And I put in a nugget here. It says they are willing to spend money in order to make money. So I guess it's talking about, let me back up a little bit. It says they are also, let me read it. Black millionaires surveyed in this study are distinguished by the belief that wealth is important, that the accumulation of wealth is a desirable life objective. Moreover, they believe in the wisdom of investing part of their earnings for the long haul and benefiting from the rewards of the compound interest. They also believe in protecting their wealth by utilizing professional investment advice. And finally, they believe in spending wisely. They are willing to spend money in order to make money, but they are always in the position to tell their money where to go rather than asking where it has gone.
Right.
Puff is gone.
Right.
Where'd it go?
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. That ain't a good feeling.
That's why I wanted to back that up, because I was like, wait a minute, no, that's not the impact. You have to read that whole paragraph to get that impact, because when I read that, I had to read it twice. I was like, and rather us figuring out where did my money go, it's telling my money where to go. And that's cool. That is where I know I want to go. I want to get there, because it's like we shouldn't have to, it's like water running through your hands. It shouldn't be just going away. We should tell, okay, this box, that money should be there. That money should be, and probably for the most part, we have some capacities of that when we talk about 401k, we talk about savings and everything. But beyond that, what are we doing? Are we doing what are we doing to be able to say where our money goes? And I don't think we think like that. I don't think we think that way.
We don't.
We said the magic word think, because in this whole book, like I said earlier, in his whole book, he's on highlighting, thinking different, doing something and thinking different, thinking about different about this, thinking different about that. And that's what I love about this is it's making us think.
Think, right.
It makes us think different, because it, like here it says, does your money speak to your character, your aims, and your ambitions?
Yeah. You could tell, like you said, you can tell a lot about somebody just by looking at their bank account. Of course, if you ain't got $1 million in bank, that don't mean you're a failure. It just means that you ain't accumulated what you want to accomplish yet. But
the person has to be a goal. If it has to be a decision that you want to make, I mean, that's the point. Is that in order for you to be financially wealthy, you have to ultimately one day made a decision that that's what you want to do, right?
Right. And even on that next page, 97, there goes again, like what Tanya was saying. Again, the question is asking, what does your money mean to you? What does it mean to you? Because I can speak for Sharon, because I know that Sharon gets stupid crazy when her money ain't right. If somebody jacking her money up, and I got to get on the phone. I got to figure out what the hell happened. If it's my mistake, it's my mistake. If their mistake, somebody's head gonna roll. We're real funny about our money now. I mean, the time I'm sure y'all are too. But I ain't never been in your house when somebody jacking y'all's money up. But I've been in this one. I know what go down there. Oh, when here we everything got to stop. We got to stop eating. If we drive, we got to stop driving. You know what I'm saying? So what does your money say about you? And that's definitely something that we need to keep on the forefront of our minds, because it says a lot about you. It does.
It does. It does.
I mean, it does. It does.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's hard because, like, just think about it right now. The recession. I mean, we're not quote unquote in a recession yet, but I think we're teetering on one. And what's happening is that, and I'm saying recession, I mean inflation. The inflation right now is a 41-year high. And so that yesterday, I went to the store to pick up 2 things, got out of there. I had $75 worth of stuff. Don't know what the heck I bought.
I know, right?
And I was like,
right.
What is this? So, and what I've been trying to do to alleviate that is to go online and buy all my food. And that's the reason why I think that works. Because when you walk in the store, you picking up stuff and then you come out, you have nothing. And so, but that's where right now is the best opportunity for us to kind of think differently, because we have to start monitoring how we're spending our dimes, our pennies, because everything is so much more expensive. Because like what they were saying here at the end of 97, it says, for starters, Black millionaires are quite serious when it comes to earning and spending their money. Yes, it's true. Some within this income bracket may indulge, which, it's nothing wrong with.
We all do.
Some things here and there. You have to enjoy some of your fruits of your labor, but it says some. It didn't say all the time. It says both monetarily and socially. However, these gatherings and affairs are few and far in between, which is right. It says events such as these typically are conducted between closed doors and gated walls, where participants know that they will be surrounded by those of similar financial means.
Come on now.
So that's basically what he's saying is the poor stay together, the rich stay together, and us people squeezed in the middle stay together.
Anybody in there broke.
Right. So I think this is kind of where it's really good. It just talks about, I think he was talking about Carla in this particular sense, talking about her labels and different things like that. And he said, and I don't have it highlighted here, but it's somewhere it says, he was saying the poor. Okay, no, this is what I was saying earlier. The poor keep score by cars and clothes. The middle class keep score by degrees and titles.
Right.
But the wealthy keep score by their bank account. The monetary benefits of character, faith, and principle are simply beyond comprehension. That's phenomenal. When he said it, I was like, he right.
Yep.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Exactly right.
And we have all got to take those a lot of those things that have been said, both positive and negative, and figure out which of those fit us. Which of those have we embraced, or which of those should we embrace? You know, because you look at you talk about some of the habits of millionaires, or things like saving, building legacy, family unit. Some of them they go to bed early, they go to bed late and rise early. A lot of the traits of billionaires. What are those traits? Can you take on? What are those traits can you adapt for your life? And then we talk about things that middle class people do, like poor and middle class people do, like judging your success by your red bottoms, or the kind of car you drive, or some of those things that you just mentioned, Sharon. You know, which of those things have we embodied in our head and our bodies that, you know what, I need to stop doing that. You know, that don't mean you're gonna get rid of your car. It just means that,
well, yeah, but
put the type of importance on it that you normally did.
Well, like you said, it's nothing wrong with splurging every so often, but what you shouldn't be doing is splurging all the time, where you don't have enough money to be able to have the necessities, or have a emergency savings account, or have a situation where you may have, especially right now when they talk about this inflation and teetering on a recession, where a lot of companies now, if and what I've been noticing even on my LinkedIn is that every week somebody will say, you know, I'm a part of that layoff. I'm a part of that layoff. And I was like, a company is laying off and they just ain't told people?
Right.
And because they're saying that we can't find workers, right?
Right.
I've been hearing, we don't have enough people. We don't have enough people for the jobs. So our unemployment rate is teetering around 3%. But what's happening also is that, depending on the type of skilled labor force that we have, a lot of people, like, you know, the mortgage industry that were laid off, a lot of recruiters in reference to high tech, those different people have been laid off. And it's coming from the demands are not there as much, especially with that, you know, that hike, that 0.75% interest rate hike. People are not buying as houses as much, even though there's not a lot of inventory. Still the demand is high, but there's not a lot of inventory out there anyway for that. But also people are starting to drop out of that. And so that's also having a trickle down effect in reference to mortgages. And so I was seeing a lot of people from, I think, better.com and other places. I hate to say that on camera, but the different places who were saying that they were being laid off. And so this is kind of like you're saying, it's like, think about the rainy day. And some people don't think about the rainy day, that the rainy day is going to come, that you're not going to always have, no, go ahead, LT.
No, I was gonna say, it's gonna rain. I mean, that's not a if, that's a when.
Right.
So I think a lot of people just need to do a better job at remembering that. That's the thing. Just remember, it's a when and it's not an if.
Yeah. It just makes it. I think this particular climate makes you kind of think it through that a little bit. I mean, you have to think through the next thing, especially, I mean, I remember in the 80s, and I, didn't have a proper care in the world in the 80s because I was a child or whatever, but I remember on TV hearing about inflation, gas highs, stuff like that. So now being an adult and seeing all this, I'm thinking like, what did my grandparents think? They probably was like, oh my God, what is going on? I mean, food is expensive, gas is expensive. I mean, I don't remember a whole lot of vacations during that time. So I'm pretty sure that's probably how they cut back. But they all were in the matures era too, where they didn't spend as much like we do anyway. They were, those that grew up in the Great Depression, and they knew better not to spend, every little dime and stuff like that. Whereas I think society over the last couple of generations, the Generation X, probably a little bit of baby boomers, I'm pretty sure, but maybe some of the millennials, we tend to spend a little bit much because we're in that get it now, pay it later mentality, want it now kind of mentality. And so I think this book really puts back a level set, especially in the Black community, that talks through thinking through our spending before we start making, especially these big purchases on there. But this is really good. I think Driver 5 talks about work, necessity, evil, work, life. Let me look at this one. This one, I pointed out already, the one I had on this one. I can't remember this one too well, but it was talking about, I think we're talking about Tom Joyner. That's what it was. Tom Joyner, Tyra Banks. Yeah. I think they were just talking about them a little bit, how they were saying a lot of the black millionaires told tales of 70 to 80 work weeks, spending nights and weekends at the office. Several respondents revealed that their personal road to wealth began when I took any job that crossed my hand, even a position that paid minimum wage. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Because this the one that touched on
do what you love and the money will follow.
The money will follow. Earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
So the wealthy are ruled by passion in their heart. When it comes to life and their work, they are completely engaged. Now that is what I liked. When I read that, my antennas went up. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Something that I like to do. Is it's more than 75% replied that they would continue in their present line of work. When asked what would they do if they had won $1 million in the lottery. That's cool. That's cool. So that means that they're in the right thing, right? Because they
would do it regardless, right?
Yeah. I like that. When I read that, I was like, excuse me, I was like, this is really good because it just talks about that once you find your passion, that money comes. The black financial elite are more apt to place their solid faith-based values into action with a consistency that is lacking among many of the poor. My data suggests that almost anonymously high value assigned with both work and financial success. So he's just saying that they go hand in hand. That in order for you to be able to have financial success, you have to have a good work ethic.
Yeah,
that's really cool. He talks about a lot of stuff here. That's why I was like, this one. I was reading through it a little bit. I was a little bit slower on this one, kind of getting through this one, but I think he was just talking about how generating income, working through devotion, making sure that you're finding some passion, and maybe. LT, you even talked about this a couple times, how finding the right fit with your company and with your jobs, it does make a difference, right?
Yeah, it 100% makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because if you're not happy in what you're doing, then just nothing's gonna be right. Mm-hmm. You do your best and you get up and you go to work and you do that grind, but at some point you're gonna stress out.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna burn out. Yeah.
You're gonna burn out. You're gonna burn out. So
yeah. Is when you have the, I guess what I'm calling the passion, the drive, regardless of the hard days, it pushes you through. And so it kind of rejuvenates you in a sense, because it's something that you care about and you love. And so it's kind of like he's also tapping into the fact that you gotta find what drives you, what pushes you, what motivates you. You're not.
There's gotta be a labor of love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If it's a labor of love, then you wouldn't even give it a second thought.
You'll put the 60 to 80 hours in, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's saying here, and I think that's kind of where, I'll be honest with you, that's where I'm struggling right now. Trying to, even though I love some parts of what I do, some parts are starting to get to where I'm like, okay, I'm stagnant. I need to move on, but I also need to continuously grow. So this chapter resonated with me because he was talking about a lot of stuff that really pushes me, is being an avid learner, making sure I'm constantly learning something. And a lot of people, probably think that's strange, but it's like, I have to keep learning. I have to keep moving. I got to be reading something or learning something, because it's not just about me going to work and coming home. Well, I'm at home most of the time, but you see what I'm saying? Working, working. You need to be doing something a little bit extra if it's, learning something more about yourself, or learning more about finances or investments or something like that. But also, when you're working, are we really doing things that we're passionate about? And of course, your job you may have right now may not necessarily be checking all those boxes,
right.
But you need to be moving towards that if you can. So the work won't be so much of work. It would be something more of a labor of love, as you call it, Tom, because the money comes when you're doing something that you're passionate about. You're going to put more interest in it, more time in it, more value in it, and you're going to do more for it. And then a lot of times what happens, just like when they were talking about the Heinz company, all those people they push themselves out of their comfort zone because they were trying to do something because they liked it. They enjoyed that.
Right.
And what I've realized too, just in the last couple of years myself, is that you got to have that passion and that drive at work.
And I was just gonna say, and somewhere else it said in there, you got to have that take charge attitude. It's in there somewhere too, and that's the thing. I mean, sometimes you just got to take charge.
Yeah, take charge of your own life. You can't let somebody else decide what your destiny is.
Right.
And exactly. I think that sometimes, how we do, sometimes we be on a job too long.
Yeah.
We be in a place too long because it's comfortable. And then what happens is that we look back, we should have left 5 years ago. We should have left 2 years ago, whatever it is that may be, because we stay because we're comfortable. And it's like, at some point we have to make the choices or make the opportunities happen. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what he said here. You got to make those opportunities happen. You got to push yourself out of your comfort zone to do that. And is it hard? Yeah, because, but if you don't try, and you may fail several times, but if you don't try that first time, you never know that you're going to succeed. And I think that's kind of where hopefully we'll start teaching some of our next generation of adults some of these things, because I think with our parents and grandparents and different things, I think they taught us some of these things, but they were also limited because, of course, they were taught by somebody, or they may have saw some different things. I know Jeff was talking about his dad and how, he does different investments. And I know LT, Lady T also has those different things like that as well. Whereas like my grandparents, they didn't do that. They actually have, I have a property that I show my aunt, but they didn't think about that. They thought they were taught to take care of their family. So they put more money into sending their children to college and helping other relatives. So it's kind of like it was different things they were taught. And that's what we focus on. Whereas it needs to be a collaborative of all that. And hopefully we can kind of start talking among ourselves, especially in the inner circle. And I can see, I said, well, it looks like we're all the ones on here. I didn't know, I realized it was just us. I didn't send my email out, so probably some people probably think we were having it today. I apologize for that, for those that see the video. But but I was just gonna say, I think the biggest thing is just knowing from here, we're gonna probably stop here on before we start driver 6 and just kind of pick up driver 6. Okay. What I was gonna say is that we probably won't have the book club next week. We'll probably skip that. I think that's the 26th, and then come back and resume on 8/2 that Tuesday, and pick it up there. And then I'll have Tom to send out the videos of, because I know that's the reason why we didn't send the video, because we thought it was going to be too big on there, but we'll send an email out just asking people if they want us to send a video and everything. So that, like I said, this is probably on me. Been a busy week for me on there, but this has been a great discussion just talking through this chapter. That's why I was saying I want to stop there, because I think when we come back and pick up driver 6, I think it's 10 drivers, right? If I'm thinking right.
I think it's 9.
9.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
9. Okay, 9 drivers,
Yeah.
and we can kind of come back and talk through those a little bit more, and then start picking up on chapter 3, believe in thyself when no one else will. That sounds good.
Mhm.
That's gonna sound good. So it gives us a chance to kind of have about 2 weeks to kind of go through the rest of those drivers, and then start on chapter 3 and be ready to kind of rock and roll with that. And then hopefully we can kind of have a little bit more of attendance on it. Last week we had a really good crowd. And then this week, like I said, that's probably on me more so than anything, but we'll get everything situated on August the 2nd. Anything else, guys, y'all want to talk about before we wrap up?
Oh, we're good. Hey, Tanya.
No, it's good.
I meant to tell them. I meant to say this last week, but what I've been doing since we started, 15 minutes prior to the book club actually starting, I'll start a video for about from probably like 6:45 up until the time we start. Like today when you jumped on, you had a video playing. So
Yeah.
So I'll do a video at 6:45 up until 7. So if you want to jump on early and watch the video or whatever, you can. It's just a good segue into the meeting, because if I got 7 or 8 people on there, and everybody jumps on at 5 minutes too, everybody's kind of sitting and looking at each other. So it kind of breaks the monotony. It kind of gives a good segue into discussing the book when I do a video, one of his videos.
Well, okay, guys. Well,
all right.
Appreciate it. I mean, very good discussion. I mean,
yeah,
I actually enjoy a smaller amounts, because we get a chance to talk through different things and stuff like that. And I think it gives us a good break for maybe for a week, 2 weeks, for us to come back and kind of pick up and talk through that. So I enjoyed you guys. Thanks so much, and we'll talk in 2 weeks. Okay.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Have a good one. Thanks for jumping on, Mr. Tanya.
All right. See you guys later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.